Good evening once again, and welcome to the Monday Review Show. This is where we talk about all things refereeing and only refereeing and decisions that are made, some are not made, yellow and red cards, etc., and all of that story. Now, if you'd like to make a comment on the show or you'd like to send in a comment or ask a question, please do so. There's a little thing down there on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and you can leave your comments there. And assuming it's appropriate and all of that, we'll certainly put it up on the screen and Keith and I will discuss it. So, having said Keith, I'm delighted to welcome once again my very good friend and colleague from England, former Premier League referee, former FIFA referee, former head of the PGMOL. And who are they, you might ask? Well, those are the guys who look after the referees in the Premier League and the Championship. And Keith is also responsible for introducing goal line technology. Good evening, Keith, and thanks again for joining us.
Delighted to be here. Yeah.
Now, you and I have been pretty objective in our comments, not, what's the word they use? I can't think of the right word, but we have been objective in our criticism, if that's the right word, or comment about certain referees who haven't done what they should have done, etc., etc. But this week we had a very, very good performance from Peter Banks in the Manchester United Chelsea game. A terrible day, shocking day, pouring rain, and it was always going to be a very, very difficult game. But you saw some good decisions by Peter Banks on that day.
Yes, I think when we sit in the warmth of our and comfort of our house or lodgings or whatever, and we see the rain pouring down, one of the things that referees have to take into account and can often be missed is the actual condition of the playing surface, and that might be very wet conditions, maybe ice, maybe snow, and sometimes wind or fog. I think when we look at where Manchester's placed, just up the road in Blackburn, with 14 minutes to go, a referee had to call the game off because of the torrential downpour on that particular pitch. That's never an easy decision. It involves security. It involves safe egress from the stadium by spectators. And when you consider that was Blackburn against Ipswich, and Ipswich fans have travelled half the length of the country to get to the match, and it's not completed. So that's a tough call. Sure. And I compliment the referee on making that call. So when we look at Peter Banks, I think he's had a really good start to the season. He's a good man manager. He's got a high level of work rate. He moves around the field with ease and takes some good viewing positions. What we expect from an elite referee, but we don't always get.
Yeah, sure.
And he was faced with a complex decision when the goalkeeper came out and clattered his opponent.
Yeah.
And that, when we look at certain instances like that, that is, if you like, it could be the catalyst of mayhem, with players taking weight out of each other and the referee losing control. What he did was very effective. He didn't hesitate. He produced the red card. He didn't wait for VAR to have an inquiry into it. And yes,
that's the red card now for Mbuema, the dog saw.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you've gone
later on. Yeah.
Yeah, you've gone correct call, and it was obviously confirmed by the VAR. Then, having cautioned Casemiro of Manchester United, Casemiro puts in a second yellow card challenge.
Yeah.
And Again, Banks produced that second yellow and sent him off. Excuse me, I've been suffering this weekend with a cold.
Oh, I think lots of people have it. Yeah, yeah.
So I think those were two really good pieces of courage and effective officiating. But throughout the 90 minutes, he maintained good control and good concentration. And he made some allowances for the weather, naturally, but
Yeah.
not too much. And I think it was a really good performance.
Yeah, I was impressed with him too. Many referees, I think, would have ducked out of issuing a second yellow card to Casemiro. And people must remember, this was the first half, still in the
Yeah.
first half, and he dished out that yellow card. He could easily have, if he was a weaker referee, sort of turned the blind and say, well, it wasn't deserve a second yellow card. And I admire people for that. I've often been asked, did I ever regret giving a red card? And I've many times said no, but I've often regretted not giving a red card. And
Yeah.
I thought it, I had great admiration for Peter Bank, not because of the red card and not that there's something against Manchester United, but the fact that he had the courage in a home game with 75,000 people probably at the match, and he had the courage to send off one of their top players. I think he deserves great praise for that.
I think it proves to me one thing, that I think Peter Banks has been one of those middle order, or deemed to be one of those middle order select Group 1 referees, and has not had that consistency of appointments. And he's coming off a run of, I think, three games on the trot that he's refereed them quite well. So I think it must say something. It says it to me, because I used to operate, here's my top 10 referees who are in form, and they're going to get the appointments. And you might have the other referee coming in and going, why am I getting a match? And I've gone, well, perform like them in the games that I give you in the Football League. And you work through. But at the moment, these are the guys in form, and they might moan a bit and they didn't like it. But I used to say, well, if you're the manager of a football club, are you going to put your reserves out when you're playing the top team in the country?
Of course.
You're going to pick your best players. And I think, there is a table of performance and quality in the Premier League for match officials. And that's done independently through the performance analysis. I've questioned this week that system. I favour a simple system, it might be, and that's the electronic analysis. I used to use Prozone, that's no longer available, but something similar. The match assessor at the game, you can call him an observer if you like. I want him to be at the game and to smell it and see it and feel it and touch it and have that one-to-one conversation with the match officials, half-time or full-time. And those, often people think, oh, those are discussions of derision, if you like, and are really critical and negative. They're far from that. I might see a penalty kick decision not being awarded, and then I'd go into the dressing room and say to the match official, talk me through that decision. Tell me why you haven't awarded what I think is a penalty kick. And then I would listen to the version, and knowing that he's closer to the incident. And then on a Monday, I'd say, right, okay, you go home and review the DVD. I'll do the same. Let's have a quick chat on Monday, if we can, to talk it through again. That was if I still thought I was right and he got it wrong, we could still debate it, but we're analysing it. And I do think that, that system was taken away by Mike Riley. We have referee coaches, and I worry about the names of those coaches, the competence levels of their ability to coach, and a performance analysis system that has to be harsh, but fair. And by that I mean, how is this referee applying the law? How accurate is he in applying the law? How is he effectively managing players?
Have you noticed referees this season? Now, we're only 5 games into the season. They're tending to let a lot more go. And they seem to be at last catching on to the blatant cheating that's been going on by players falling down. What's a good way to get the game stopped? Fall down, even though you've got kicked in the leg, hold your head. Immediately, oh, the referee is a head injury, and they slow the whole game down.
Yeah, I think the referees have clearly received instruction.
It certainly would appear that way, because there seems to be.
I mean, I'd be very surprised if they hadn't. There's too many players. Just I think Richarlison this weekend went down, and the referee rightly ignored him. The push wasn't sufficient for him to fall over, and as a result of that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a goal did come. And that's that. Let's keep the game flowing. Then we had in the Liverpool-Everton game where a player had been fouled. An Everton player had been fouled. The referee rightly awarded a free kick. The Everton player got to his feet fairly quickly and decided to take the kick, a quick free kick. And the referee stopped play and cautioned him. And I couldn't get my head around that, because unless the referee has said quite specifically, just a minute, don't take the free kick, but I didn't see that conversation on film. So for me, I don't think that was good refereeing.
Because aren't we, certainly the old way, I'm sounding like an old fogey now, but if somebody wanted to take a quick free kick, I would let them do it. Yes. And if it didn't come off, well, then that's their problem. They don't get a second chance.
Yeah.
They either wait till they step out the 10 yards, or you get the players back or whatever, and then they take the free kick on the whistle or on a signal. But for somebody like that, he must have said, trying to get our head around it, and we're trying to second guess the referee. He must have said, don't take that kick until I'm ready. Because it was a silly thing. And then he books him and then still gives him the free kick. I wonder, Keith, just on that issue, if somebody misbehaves like that at a free kick, would it be a good idea, as in rugby, to reverse the free kick and give it to the other way?
Well, I mean, I think there's lots of things like that. It's almost like dissent, and you advance the ball 10 yards. Those things.
And sorry, Keith, on that used to be. Why have they done away with that now?
Oh, FIFA didn't like it.
Why did they introduce
this was an idea that we, from the Football Association, the PGMOL, wanted to bring in. And then we were allowed to experiment, which we did, and then we further experimented. But they insisted then, FIFA, that you could only advance it if you cautioned the player, which was completely against what we were trying to achieve here. So you're effectively only can advance the ball if you actually caution the player for dissent. So it lost some of its liberal application of law, and when I look at the FIFA and the IFAB, and I've no doubt there's some very experienced people sitting around a table. There's a technical committee that does contain a lot of quality referees. I think Howard Webb sits on that business panel that examines laws and ideas and all that comes up. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the technical director puts forward a plan to the members of the IFAB who vote. And I'm not so sure that those guys who are voting at the moment understand what they're voting for. Let us just look at them.
How many of them are referees, Keith, and many are non-referees, or do you know?
I think the majority around the table are, in fact, on the technical committee, are referees or ex-players.
Now, there I have a problem.
Yeah, you've got some pretty weighty players in there influencing those decisions. But refereeing has to stay firm. Let us look at the things that have changed in recent years. The ball on the line or inside the quadrant
Yeah.
was easy to manage.
Yeah.
We know when it's outside. We know when it was inside. So now, providing it's touching the arc, it's okay. That's the majority of the ball outside the corner kick area. Then we have that same thing on the penalty mark.
Yeah. Now, touching, so that issue there, in old money, as they say, it was 12 yards.
Yes.
The center, it was a 9-inch diameter, I think, circle where the ball was to be put in the middle of, and that was 12 yards from the goal line.
Yes.
Now it's overhanging that penalty spot, but not backwards, forwards towards the goal. So now instead of having 12 yards, we now have 11 yards and 10 inches.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the penalty kick that we discussed last week, and the encroachment by a forward into the penalty area is okay now, provided it doesn't distract the goalkeeper.
No. So how does it distract?
So why do we draw the lines? Why do we draw the 10-yard circle arc to the edge of the penalty area? I mean, I don't think these guys think things through. I mean, they think that they're simplifying the game. They're overcomplicating it. The game itself puts pressures on.
Yeah.
We were part of, I think, a movement last year where we discussed our concerns about the amount of lost playing time. We knew then that stats were coming out at an average of 52 minutes. And last season, you can remember at the start of the season, I think people were having to catch the night sleeper to go on because there were 14 minutes added, there were 12 minutes, there was 9, and there were lots of double-digit addition figures. And fans aren't daft. So when you come to the Everton game, second half, and only 3 minutes are added, then this causes concern. So I've been saying it for years. Just give the timing of games back to an independent timekeeper. Rugby do it well. Basketball do it. Ice hockey do it. There are many sports that do it, and that's what we need to do.
On the other hand, somebody might say, well, if the referee's not doing his job, then we'll get somebody else to do it. So why aren't the referees doing their job? Are they scared?
I think it's that creep that you get. It's that 6-week cycle of this is what we're going to do on the Premier League. We're going to really deal with wrestling and grappling and we're going to come down firm on it. Howard Webb in the summer. Have you seen a difference? No. Have we seen more penalty kicks awarded for grappling?
Not at all.
Is it still taking place? Of course it is.
And yet the slightest touch on a player's back in the center of the field and a free kick is awarded. But they're wrestling in the penalty area at free kicks and corner kicks, and the referee, it's becoming so monotonous and boring now. He's going to, the assistant stops the corner kick, and he goes in and he talks and stop it and stop. And then he goes back and he's hardly back on his spot and they're at it again.
Yeah, I mean, what I think the game has to understand, and this is that there's no doubts in my mind that what happens on a Saturday evening or a Saturday afternoon in the Premier League or in the Champions League, whatever league at the elite level, it cascades down almost within hours to grassroots football,
Of course.
where you've got young guys, some mature guys, running around the field, blazing the distance, working very hard, no assistant referees, and their task is being made much, much more difficult, And I think the game's abandoned. I think FIFA and UEFA have abandoned grassroots football and referees at grassroots football.
Yeah.
I think that life now, when I compare to when I started refereeing to the referees now, I mean, I had a letter from a young referee today, email that, he's quit refereeing because he's had 2 or 3 poor weeks. I've responded already to say, look, cut it up. But, I think teams and football's got to understand. I mean, there's a guy who's listened to this program, Mark Giles. He's currently training to be a cop, and he's having to move away from home most of the week to get past the examinations that he has to do, the physical bit that he has to do, past physical tests and everything. And he comes home and he gives up part of his time with his family to referee a couple of games in awful weather. And, it's evident from what I learned from his dialogue that he's a very positive individual. And the game is lucky to have people like him volunteering, refereeing youngsters coming through the system, because that's where the game exists. That's where we've all come from as match officials. And I do think, seriously, I always took my job very seriously at the PGMOL in relation to what happens on a Saturday, if it's not dealt with, cascades down to Sunday games, and they think they can get away with it. And I think we've lost a bit of connection, in my opinion. And we've certainly lost a bit of responsibility that exists for Howard Webb and his lads, whoever they are, to perform well and perform to the laws of the game. Yeah. And I think it's great that we're in a position to praise Peter Banks and his performance.
Yeah.
I thought in the Arsenal game, thought the referee had quite a good game. I mean, I think he went through the game really well. That was Stuart Atwell, someone that I've criticised in the past. But when I look at both those referees, their mobility around the pitch, their proximity to play, their good viewing angles were giving a level of accuracy, and they were refereeing like you and I used to referee. We would have an assessor in the stand or a match delegate or a FIFA guy, and we almost go to hell with him. I've got this match to referee. It doesn't matter how he looks at it. I've got this game to referee. Yeah. He'll critique me after the match. Whereas I think with VAR, it's impacted negatively on the game, because I think we've got some good referees over the years who've almost now passed the task on of refereeing a football match to the VAR. And that's why I like Peter Banks. And, Stuart Atwell, in fairness, was pretty quick. And he did have an incident that a lot of people have discussed today, and that was a bit of ball idiot. Two players threw the ball at each other, but with no violence. It was almost like a pass and like a basketball pass. And both were on yellow cards. And somebody said, well, he should have had 2 reds. I think we've got to understand the intensity of the game at the elite level. Yeah. And the fact is that the outcome was that Atwell made a choice. I'm going to roll at them in a manner that I think gets the message across, which he did. And the outcome was a positive one to the game as a whole. So I'm not ducking the issue that if he wanted to, he could have sent someone off. But I would have sent off if that throwing of the ball was with venom, with pace, rather than just sort of the nonsense that you would expect from two kids in the playground.
I know, yeah. The issue of players stealing yards at a throw-in, my goodness. They're stealing 10, 15 yards, and it's not being penalised. What is going on?
I witnessed the game a week ago with a referee who did what I used to do, and that is move to a position where the ball has gone out of play. I don't mean on the touchline. I mean maybe 10, 15 yards infield, whatever. And before that, the throw-in is taken, I used to be saying, I want the ball here. I need it here. And my linesman would recognise where I'm standing, and they would respond to it. And they might be saying to the player, if it's noisy, come back, recognising where the ball is. So I think the first thing is be proactive as referees, indicate where you want the ball thrown from. That angle of vision gives you plenty of vision to monitor the dropping zone on the throw-in itself. So yeah. I just think rather than reaction to an incident and a reactive approach to refereeing, I much prefer the proactive approach. Prevention is better than a cure. But go
ahead, Keith. Go on.
But it is a fact that, there's nothing worse. It's a little bit like going in and saying to grappling, stop it, I'm coming out. All you're doing is putting a searchlight onto the grappling offence. You're saying to everybody in the stadium, they're grappling, so I've actually had a word, and now I'm going to do nothing. It's a little bit like you tell him where to take the throw-in, and he takes 5 yards and then 10 yards. They creep. Depending on the referee, you can see it. In a weak situation of position of the throw-in, no action by the referee, the player just he never starts off at the datum point, at the point at which the ball left the field of play anyway. He starts off 6 yards in advance.
And you know what's one of the reasons for that is this placing of the ball, a spare ball. And sometimes the ball goes out down there and they'll go to the new ball that's maybe 10 yards further up and they'll take it from there, or maybe even steal a few more. I wonder what would it make any difference that instead of giving a throw in, they gave a free kick on the touchline where the ball went out of play?
Yeah, well, look, I'm coming from a position, that if you're going to make a law change of that type, then it has to be experimented, and then let's see how the results come through. I mean, the facts are that when we actually look at the throw-in itself, often the law isn't maintained. I'm not necessarily blaming the referee here, but the referees who are failing to detect the one-handed throw.
Yeah.
And you only detect...
I'm not splitting hairs either, not splitting blades of grass, but really it is so blatant sometimes. And players will just take a chance, and if they get away with it, they'll do it again and again.
Exactly. So I think these things are... What we've seen in recent years, we've seen these changes to law to accommodate, in my view, weak refereeing.
Exactly.
Not strong refereeing.
I've never heard it like that before.
I listen to comments now. If comments about my refereeing and a week after I'd refereed a football match would be fairly derogatory, they would follow the path of every referee that's been born and refereed. Yeah. You never, a 1 week away from a match, maybe 1 year away from a match is different. 10 years it's different. 30 years it's even more different. It's amazing how many people think that I was an outstanding referee. I mean, I was human and I made mistakes, and I used to analyze my performances to like the 9th degree. I mean, like I was never satisfied as a referee. I never came out thinking I've, all those 50 decisions I've made were absolutely brilliant, I'd be worried about the 2 or 3 that I got wrong. Or could I have done them better? Was I out of position? You know, and again, I think sometimes I promote very strongly with the referees who I have discussions with now about, you know, a diary, marking themselves, assessing themselves, a self-analysis, which I think is important. Fitness is the foundation, you know, and then that fitness level gives you a lot. As you get older, there's a balance. You know, there's lots of 50, 60-year-olds referee football.
Oh, yeah.
And they get about the game. And I mean, I watched one a few weeks ago in a junior match, and I was just gobsmacked by how his proximity to play. And he didn't seem to run. But he could read the game brilliantly. His anticipation was when everybody was still, he was moving. That was the first thing I noticed. He was anticipating the dropping zone. He wasn't short of the dropping zone. He was beyond it. He came out wide. As the kick was about to be taken, he recognised whether it was coming towards his touchline or the far touchline, but was moving laterally across the field at pace. And you've gone, yeah, those are the things that you learn a skill set, and then hopefully you can pass those on to younger referees or referees in the modern game.
Well, thanks once again, Keith. We've run way over time. Thank you very much for your time and your participation, and thank you out there for watching. We'll do it all again next Monday, 8 o'clock, same time, same channel. Thanks, Keith. And
again,
thank you.